Eye on St. Lucie. I'm your host, Kerry Padrick, for this series, and I'm so excited to kick off a new season of Eye on St. Lucie, whereby we will be focusing on events and occurrences that are important to you as community members, and also allowing opportunities to share information on how our community can partner with our schools, because partnerships are so important to the continued growth of our students. Today we are going to be focusing on a movement in St. Lucie Public Schools, not just a moment, and to help us understand this very important movement that involves our fathers and our male caregivers with our students is Assistant to the Superintendent, Dr. Kevin Perry. Welcome, Dr. Perry.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here, and I'm so glad that you called it a movement, not a moment.
Well, you've coached me well, because I've been involved in some of the planning for this event, and I know, Dr. Perry, that you have a legacy of being very, very involved in the community and shepherding others to be involved in the schools to create that real solid partnership. Last year, you worked with a group of school leaders and community leaders on a similar initiative. Now the state of Florida has recognized how important it is for fathers to be involved in the lives of their students. So why don't you give us a little history of what you did last year as a community leader and a school leader, and what we're going to be moving toward this year.
Just like St. Lucie County leading the way, now the state follows. I like to think so anyway. Last year, we participated in what we called the Million Father March. It was an outgrowth of the Black Star Project movement. Black Star is an organization out of Chicago, started in 1996. But the Million Father March was created in 2004. And it was a movement to get fathers to take their children to school. But because the mission of the Black Star Project is about community involvement in education, it was many different things about the community's involvement, parents, families' involvement in the education of a child. That fast forwards us to this year. Chancellor Lyons at the Department of Education, Florida Department of Education, participated in a similar event like we had our Million Father March last year. So as Chancellor, he's bringing it to the entire state of Florida, which I think is phenomenal. What that organization, what his people did, was that they researched many different organizations. One of the organizations that they researched was the Black Star Project. And it targets fathers, male caregivers, grandfathers, uncles, and their involvement in the day-to-day educational aspects of a child's life. So the premise of what we now know as Dad's Take Your Child to School Day is basically the same thing that we started last year when we brought the Million Father March to St. Lucie County. Wonderful. Chancellor Lyons is making it a statewide event with Dad's Take Your Child to School Day, which is September 30, 2015.
That's wonderful. And I know that you've been in communication with the State Department, and they've actually asked for you to share some of the positives from what we did last year in St. Lucie Public Schools. You also touched upon some of the research behind the importance of involving fathers, male caregivers, in the lives of students. Can you touch upon some of the real salient research points so that we as a community can understand that?
I'd love to. We must keep in mind that there's over 30 years of research that maintains that there's a belief between the positive relationships that exist between parents and a child's parents, family engagement in a child's school, and that child's success in school. One such point of research is by Michael Hall. He is the founder and president of Strong Fathers, and he reported that his organization's work with fathers, that greater participation is realized when three things happen. First, it must be interactive. That means there must be some kinds of activities between the father and the child. It must be relational. Fathers learning from fathers, growing from fathers, have an opportunity to meet with other fathers to learn and to share their experiences. And then it must be relevant, which means it must be linked to learning. Of course, it could be linked to learning for the father, but more so linked to learning for for the child, because those things that the father brings to the table will help the child be better successful in school. Also in 2014, there was a meta-analysis, which is a combination of studies brought together that talked about the relationship between the father involvement, again, and the student academic success. And it found overall the effect of fathers had a very positive effect on students, regardless of the child's age, regardless of the child's race, regardless of the child's involvement, any kind of involvement. And we tend to think that we must only be involved in children, or that we must focus at the early stages of a child's education. But the meta-analysis, like I said, which is a combination of many studies, says that regardless of age, we must still be involved. The last one that I want to point out, Ms. Padrick, is that in 2004, there was a summary by the Parent Institute. That report said that teachers reported that where there was a strong involvement, they saw an increase of 50% higher in the reading scores and 40% higher in math scores. So basically what we're saying is that when we have fathers, male caregivers involved, substantially involved in the education and social development of children, we see higher standardized test scores, we see higher attendance rates, and of course that all leads to higher graduation rates. So what we're trying to do is make sure that if we can be a part of this positive movement that brings the male caregivers, the role models, into connect them with the education of their children, we know that those children are going to fare better in school and have greater success as they matriculate through our school system.
That's correct. From early on to when they graduate as seniors, college and career ready, because that's what our goal is.
It never stops.
And making sure that the children are college and career ready when they leave means so much more than just understanding a philosophy or a concept, but being able to apply it and think about things in different ways. Father's involvement, male caregivers' involvement can definitely help because of the dialogue with understanding what students are learning in school, making sure that they are participating in school, will definitely also be a wonderful bridge to taking from what we teach in the classroom to application in the real world for success beyond high school.
Even though the research points to the level of the child's success specifically correlated to the mother's educational, we know that when we involve other members, that extended village, those male caregivers, we just create a more well-rounded family structure for students, which helps them move from one level to the other, and they can gather so much information, be exposed to so many other kinds of opportunities and so many other kinds of learning opportunities that seed into who they become, which makes them a better citizen.
And it sounds to me like you're talking about a culture of high expectations with learning for our overall community.
Exactly. That's why it has to be a movement, not just a moment.
Agreed. Agreed. That is fantastic. I know that we have several avenues in St. Lucie County to become more involved. We have our Parent Academy, which hosts many, many different sessions, helping parents to understand what students are learning in school. We have opportunities from our libraries, from our Oxbow centers and places like that.
You have the Marine Oceanographic, you have the museums, and then you have organizations like Big Brothers and Big Sisters, Boys and Girls Club. You have many fraternities and sororities that are all seeding into the development of children.
And it's wonderful because I think we're all starting to feel that so much more, that many of these opportunities are free for parents to take their children to. We are trying to be much more aggressive in our publication of opportunities. For example, there's an upcoming session at the downtown library in the Oxbow Center that we're sharing with parents so they can be more involved. So this is just absolutely wonderful. From a moment to a movement, we as a community are building that culture together.
I also think, Ms. Padrick, that when you look at the things that we naturally have planned in our schools, our open houses.
Agreed.
We automatically start, and there's a movement that's happening at Westwood High School and Port St. Lucie High School with Access Now that I'm sure you'll get to, that gives technology which could be a benefit to the entire family, and the entire family needs to be involved in that because we live in that age where technology is very important to a child's life, but so therefore it's very important to the child's education.
Well, since you mentioned it, let's just talk about Access Now right now and how parents can be involved, because I bet most of our viewing audience can say that from the time they woke up to the time they started watching this show, that there was some interaction with technology, whether or not it was to check a
We all
bank
grabbed our
statement,
phones
to
first
check
thing this
Facebook.
morning.
Exactly, and it's a way of the world. So we need to provide that type of digital access to content for our students, the opportunity to collaborate online with others beyond the four walls of a classroom. And Access Now is a digital teaching and learning innovation pilot that St. Lucie is putting into place. One of the things that is very important that our families and our fathers and male caregivers understand is that digital responsibility and citizenry is vital. A footprint now, a digital footprint now, while it may seem innocent, could have long-lasting effects if it's not a positive digital footprint. So absolutely, our fathers need to be involved in
Involving the entire
helping
family,
to understand that.
helping to understand, yes.
Yeah. Okay. Wonderful. Well, we've talked about how much it can grow and be a part of the community. To coordinate an event like this is a mammoth task. You as an individual could do great things, but I know that when you solicit the support of others, our other community leaders, school leaders, you've been able to do so very much more. So give us a who's who of who's involved in this.
It's really neat when you could be a facilitator, but there are other people that have wonderful ideas that come to the table, and you again learn from them. So I was able to assemble a cast of men who were passionate about the male caregiver's role in a child's life. We started with Henry Santabria, who's the fantastic principal at Lincoln Park Academy, awesome Todd Smith, who's the wonderful principal at Fort Pierce Central High School, and Craig Logue, who's our dynamic principal at Mariposa Elementary School. In addition to those principals, we have James Sloan, who's a young father and a dynamic assistant principal out at Westwood High School, specifically at the MOA site, Edwin Munoz, who's an assistant principal at Bayshore Elementary. We have Dr. David Washington, who's been a long stay in our community, and he's working in our family and community involvement at the district level. Elker Harris, he's the Dean of Students at Lincoln Park Academy, has a long-standing career as a music educator in our district. And Eddie Robinson, who's the Dean at Manatee Academy. So those were our cast of school-related employees that helped to come together to put it together to plan what we knew as the Million Father March. Again, Dads Take Your Child to School Day, because St. Lucie County is a great supporter of education in the state of Florida, so we're joining with the Florida movement. In addition, we knew that we could not do this alone. So we contacted many organizations where we have friends in the community. Representing the Sheriff Department is Gary Wilson, who's our Chief Deputy. The Chief of Police for Port St. Lucie, John Boduk, is also a community team member. Last year we had Frank Amandro, who's representing the Fort Pierce Police Department, and we have a new wonderful chief and a deputy chief that's going to be involved as well. Commissioner Kim Johnson was the mainstay on our committee, and my son, Chris Kraft, who's our tax collector, he's a 1992 graduate of Westwood High School, along with our clerk of the court, Joe Smith, who's also a product of St. Lucie County, a 1995 graduate of Lincoln Park Academy. And the community members came together with our school-based members to plan the movement and how it would happen.
You know what was interesting is when you sent out the call this year for your committee members to find out who could be involved again this year, and they were the ones that served last year, because you shared that communication with me, it was almost an immediate response of count me in, I'm there to do whatever it takes. So we do recognize that there was a lot of positive momentum created last year. And I know that in the upcoming school board meeting, we're actually going to be reading a proclamation that really fine-tunes the rationale for this and the expectations of it. We do have that so that our viewing audience can see it. If you would like to share each of those points with us that we'll be reading at the upcoming September 8th school board meeting.
I love to share this proclamation because, again, we have a school board that's also passionate about these kinds of activities for our students. So the proclamation that will come before the school board on September 8th starts, whereas education has become a matter of national security, and whereas public schools are the backbone to our democracy, providing young people with the tools they need to maintain our nation's precious values of freedom, civility, and equality. And whereas family involvement in a child's learning is critical to a student's success from preschool through college and sets the foundation for preparing Florida students to be lifelong learners and meaningful contributors to society. And whereas research indicates that there's a correlation between the level of a father's involvement in their child's education and the child's academic success. And whereas further research indicates that children whose fathers take active roles in the educational lives earn better grades, score higher on tests, enjoy school more, and are more likely to graduate from high school and attend college. And whereas St. Lucie Public Schools has established effective homeschool collaborations so that families can be actively involved in the educational and social emotional development of students. And whereas Florida's educational leaders are providing opportunities for fathers to engage more fully in their child's education and strengthen the connections between fathers and schools. And whereas it is appropriate to recognize the critical contributions made by fathers who foster a love for learning in their children and by educators who acknowledge the importance of family engagement and encourage participation by fathers as an integral part of the mission of all schools. And whereas fathers, grandfathers, uncles, big brothers, significant male caregivers, mentors, and friends are all encouraged to participate in the Dads Take Your Child to School Day, now be it resolved that the school board of St. Lucie County, Florida, joins with the Florida Department of Education to hereby proclaim Wednesday, September 30th, 2015, as Dads Take Your Child to School Day, and calls upon all citizens to observe this day by taking time to recognize and acknowledge the importance of the male influence on educational success.
I heard some key words in there that are just so significant. Active involvement, collaborative roles that we work through together, the homeschool partnership, and fostering the love of learning for ongoing success. Amazing. So let's say I'm a dad. It's September 30th.
Okay.
Now, you, sir, mentor numerous young gentlemen. I have two boys of my own. Both are now graduated from
St. Lucie Public Schools.
St. Lucie Public Schools. And so my husband also mentors some others. Let's say I'm a dad with a child in school.
Okay.
I'm a male figure in the community that doesn't have a child in the school. What can I expect on September 30th when I take my child or perhaps someone I'm mentoring to school?
Well, it's kind of hard to just limit it to September 30th because it's a movement, not a moment.
Good.
It begins for us again on September 30th. But what will happen is that there is a compact that fathers are going to be asked to sign. And what the compact says is that you will take your child to school when possible. You will seek volunteer opportunities. You will review and discuss progress reports and report cards with the child throughout the year, and attend extracurricular activities. So it's open so that all kinds of activities that can engage families, engage fathers in a child's educational life throughout the year, be it academic, be it social, be it extracurricular, fathers can have those opportunities to engage. And the pledge is there, the compact is their pledge, their commitment to doing so. That when you go on our campus, specifically, in the past we have had a parade of fathers. One of our schools had a parade
of fathers.
It was really neat to see all of the female supporters standing on the side, cheering these fathers and their children on as they paraded around the field at the school and then went into the school to show their sign of support. Of course, we've always had donuts or breakfast with dads. We've always had the father-daughter dances. There was a neat event at Westgate last year. It was athletic day with dads. And on the fields outside in the gym, you had fathers showing their sons and daughters how to shoot hoops. You had fathers hula hooping with their children. It was just amazing to see these fathers actively engaged in the fun aspect of school with their children. And there was another activity that happened at Alapata Flats K-8 school last year, which is their ACE Club. And in our school system, we are a Kids at Hope community, and that Kids at Hope says that kids have ACEs, and I can be an ACE for a child as a parent. I can be an ACE for a child as someone in the school. I can be an ACE for a child as someone in the community. And it's that the ACE is that someone that the child knows has their back and is there to fully support them. So those caregivers, those supporters, that they were given their ACE cards, it was really neat. Throughout the course of the year, because it's a movement, not a moment, if I may add, you may have days on campuses where real men read. Fathers, male caregivers come on campus and have storybook time and read to children. Because those of us in education know that those who read succeed. Foundation for all other learning comes through reading. There may be career fairs where fathers can participate in. Many of our schools have what they have called student-led conferences, so that instead of parents just talking to teachers, the child actually takes the parent through their learning and activities that they're involved in school. And of course, we have many opportunities, not only for fathers, but male caregivers, male community members to volunteer to support the educational process for all our students.
Active involvement. That's what I'm hearing you say. Active involvement, and not just waiting to be asked. What can I do actively to involve myself in the life of my child or someone whom I mentor?
Exactly right.
Yeah. So in the compact, I do believe I heard you mention something about being aware of a child's progress and staying in tune to those those 9-week reports. But we do have an online system, our Skyward Parent Resource, that parents can access by downloading the St. Lucie Public School mobile app. Go to Parent Resources, and they can have 24/7, anytime, anywhere access to the progress of their child, and also communicate with their child's teacher. So there's another way to stay actively involved. We also have in the fall our Project Citizen, which is for 7th graders, where they look into their own community, identify something that they see as a concern, and students are seeking active involvement from the community on like primary resources, places to go to help search and solve. Fathers could get involved in that type of a project, as well as our fall is a time in which science projects are well underway. And that's so much more than just a tabletop experiment. It involves a lot of deep research and inquiry and seeking answers within our own community. So many opportunities just on the horizon.
Just think how cool it would be for Kevin to go to school on Tuesday and take a test and not do so well. And the teacher grades the test Tuesday evening, Wednesday, and they post on Skyward. Dad checks Skyward once a week, usually at the end of the week, and Kevin comes home on Thursday and he says, so you didn't do so well on that language test, did you? Could you see my eyes get that Dad is keeping up? But that's the way that parents can stay actively involved. So as we were talking about access now, opportunities to digital learning for our students, digital access about learning for our parents.
Absolutely. And if there's any question about how to gain access to that, all a parent would need to do is sign up through their school's portal. There are people there, data specialists, receptionists, the school principal, the teacher can help support on how to gain access to Skyward Parent Portal.
And as digital savvy as our students are, they can help you, and we can advise parents. Most of us know how to download an app to our phone.
Right.
Easy access anytime, anywhere.
That's right, 24/7. That's fantastic. You've really shared a great deal about what this movement is about. I know that taking it from last year, St. Lucie County being fully on board, to this year, a slight shift, the name change, the state support behind it, so it's a statewide movement. Where do you see this going next year as far as opportunities?
Well, last year, in our initial year, we had over 2,700 compacts signed, which is significant. In addition to that, we know that there were many places where the compact was not signed. So we reached many more fathers, male caregivers, which is really what we want to do. I know how important data is to us, but just to witness some people on your campus that you might have never seen before coming to support their child, and just to see the child's expression of having dad bring them to school, or dad being at the play, dad being at the football game, or dad being there to hear me talk about the work that I'm doing at the student-led conferences, or dad having digital access to my learning. Because again, it's a movement, not a moment. So in St. Lucie County, we're giving many kinds of opportunities for that to happen. But I see that we will continue to grow, because it being the movement, not a moment, it's not just this one-time thing on September 30th. What we ask schools to do is to plan some type of activity, and specifically advertise, target getting fathers into that school. It could be something on the academic side, it could be something on the extracurricular side, the performance side, it doesn't matter. We just want to engage fathers in the building, in the learning of students on a more regular basis. So if all 40 of the schools did one event each quarter, that's 4 events throughout the year that actively targeted fathers' involvement. We naturally have reading days on our storybook character days. We do a special push to get fathers to come, because real men read, and just to hear fathers read to children. I'll tell you a quick story if we have time. One of my best friends asked me to be their child's godfather. Jalen is now a freshman at the Great Bethune-Cookman University. And I looked at him and I said, only on one condition: if you promise me that you will read to her every night. He made the promise. Jalen and her little sister and brother both have a love for language, a love for reading, a strong vocabulary, and do extremely well in school. But the power of hearing dad read to them regularly helped lay that foundation and got him actively involved in the daily, regular education of his children.
And stories do so much to really send the point home. That active involvement was ongoing. It was a movement, not a moment, as is our movement to involve dads and male caregivers in our schools. So I thank you, Dr. Perry, for sharing this information and helping us to promote shifting the culture to a more rigorous, highly engaged, high expectation for literacy in St. Lucie Public Schools. And for our viewing audience, I would like to remind you that we stay focused in St. Lucie on teaching and learning, on making certain that we have safe and caring environments for our students, in providing talent development for all of our employees, and for making certain that we can enhance our communication, our positive customer service, and our community collaboration with you each and every day. Please stay connected to St. Lucie Public Schools through Facebook, Twitter, and downloading our app for 24/7 connection. Thank you.